the Lone Ranger. America's most famous lawman, a masked hero fighting for justice in the Wild West. You know his name. Everyone does. Since 1933, he has been an American legend. Radio shows, television series, movies. The Lone Ranger became an icon. But what if everything you know about him is wrong? What if the real hero was not white? What if he was a former slave from Texas? Meet Bass Reeves. Over 3,000 arrests in his career, 14 men taken down in gunfights, never wounded once in 32 years. He was the most feared lawman in the American West, and you have probably never heard his name. That is not an accident. Here is why. The Lone Ranger debuted on January 30th, 1933, a radio drama from Detroit, Michigan. An instant national sensation, the story follows John Reed, a Texas Ranger who survives an ambush that wipes out his entire unit. He is left for dead in the desert. A Native American named Tonto finds him, nurses him back to health. They become lifelong partners in the fight against frontier injustice. Reed puts on a black mask and rides a white horse named Silver. He becomes a vigilante known as the Lone Ranger. Justice rides again. Silver bullets, a faithful horse, the famous catchphrase. These trademarks became symbols of American heroism for generations of children. The television series ran from 1949 to 1957. Clayton Moore became the face of justice in the American West. Comic books, toys, lunchboxes, multiple Hollywood films. The Lone Ranger became synonymous with everything we imagine about the Wild West. When you picture a Wild West lawman, this is the image that comes to mind. White, heroic, masked, and completely fictional. Made up, but every legend has an origin story. Someone had to inspire this myth. So where did the creators get the idea? Who was the real hero? There was a real lawman whose story is more incredible than any radio drama, and his name was erased from history for almost a century. In July of 1838, a boy was born in Crawford County, Arkansas. He would become the greatest lawman America ever produced. His name was Bass Reeves, and unlike the Lone Ranger, every single word of his story is absolutely true. This is that story. Bass Reeves was born into slavery. His parents were field workers on a plantation. He had no freedom, no rights, no future of his own. He was owned by a man named William Steele Reeves, an Arkansas state legislator. Bass took his master's surname, as all slaves did then. In 1846, when Bass was 8 years old, the family moved to Grayson County, Texas, near the town we now call Sherman. Bass became the personal servant of George Reeves, the owner's son. George was a Texas county sheriff and later a Confederate colonel. Even as a teenager, Bass stood out from everyone around him. 6 feet 2 inches tall, broad shoulders, powerful hands, an imposing figure. George Reeves recognized something special in Bass. He taught him to shoot, to ride, skills that would one day make Bass legendary. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, George joined the Confederate Army. He took Bass with him to serve as his personal aide. Then, sometime between 1861 and 1862, everything changed, all because of a simple card game one evening. Bass and George got into a heated argument during a poker game. According to accounts, Bass beat his master unconscious with his fists. In Texas, a slave striking his master meant only one thing: execution. There would be no trial, no appeal, just death. That was the law. Bass had exactly one choice: run or die. That night, he disappeared into the darkness, alone, hunted, with nothing but his survival skills. He fled north into Indian Territory, the land we now call Oklahoma. It was controlled by 5 tribes: Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Choctaw. Indian Territory was a haven for escaped slaves and outlaws alike. For Bass Reeves, it would become a second home and his training ground. The Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole nations took Bass in. For several years, he lived among them as one of their own, learning everything. He learned their languages fluently: Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Choctaw, Chickasaw, all 5 tribal languages. This would prove invaluable. They taught him how to track, how to read the land, how to follow a trail that others could not see, skills no lawman school could teach. He honed his shooting abilities until he became deadly accurate, equally lethal with a pistol in either hand or a Winchester rifle at range. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation made Bass legally free. He was no longer a fugitive slave. He was finally a free man. Bass moved to Van Buren, Arkansas. He bought land with money he had saved, became a farmer and rancher, built a real life for himself. In 1864, he married a woman named Nellie Jenny from Texas. Together, they would have 11 children over the coming years. For nearly a decade, Bass lived a quiet life. A family man, a successful farmer, respected by his neighbors. But destiny had other plans. By 1875, Indian Territory had become the most dangerous place in all of America. A lawless wasteland ruled by outlaws. It was estimated that 17,000 of the 22,000 white settlers there were criminals hiding from justice back east. There was a famous saying at the time: "No Sunday west of St. Louis, no God west of Fort Smith." The territory was completely lawless. That year, Judge Isaac Parker was appointed to the federal court in Fort Smith, Arkansas. He had jurisdiction over the entire territory. They called him the Hanging Judge. He would sentence 87 men to the gallows during his career. He was determined to bring order. Parker needed men to enforce the law. Good men, brave men, men who knew the territory. He ordered the hiring of 200 deputy marshals. Bass Reeves was recruited for one simple reason: his knowledge of Indian Territory was unmatched. He knew every inch of that dangerous land. He knew the territory like a cook knows her kitchen. He spoke all 5 tribal languages. He had relationships with people throughout the region. In 1875, Bass Reeves became one of the first black deputy marshals west of the Mississippi River. History was being made. Picture this man: 6 feet 2 inches, 180 pounds of pure muscle, 2 Colt revolvers on his belt, a Winchester rifle ready, a thick handlebar mustache, perfectly shined boots, a big black hat. Bass Reeves was an unforgettable sight riding into any town or outpost. As a black man with a federal badge, he had legal authority to arrest anyone, white, black, or Native American. The law was finally equal. There was one significant challenge. Bass could not read. He had never been taught, so he developed an incredible method to work around it. Court officials would read warrants aloud to him. Bass would memorize every single detail: names, physical descriptions, charges, everything. He never forgot a warrant, never arrested the wrong person. His memory was legendary among the other deputies who served alongside him. What made Bass truly legendary was not just his strength or his shooting. It was his cunning mind. His signature technique was the disguise. He would pose as a cowboy, a farmer, a traveling preacher, a homeless drifter, an outlaw on the run, whatever the job required of him. One famous story tells of 2 brothers wanted for taking a life. They were hiding at their mother's farmhouse somewhere deep in Texas. Bass disguised himself as a homeless tramp, worn-out shoes, dirty, torn clothes, a hat with 3 bullet holes in it, completely convincing. He walked 28 miles to reach the house, told the mother his feet were aching from running from a posse. She felt sorry for him. She invited him inside for dinner, fed him a hot meal, even suggested this poor drifter should join her outlaw sons. Bass played along perfectly. When the brothers finally arrived home, Bass revealed his badge and arrested them both before they could react. The mother was left speechless. Another time, two outlaws got the drop on him out on the trail. They had Bass at gunpoint, ready to pull the trigger and end his life. Bass asked for one final request. Would one of them please read him a letter from his wife back home? A dying man's last wish before the end. As the outlaw reached into the saddlebag for the letter, Bass grabbed his throat with one hand and drew his gun with the other. Both arrested. Over 32 years of service, Bass was shot at more times than anyone could count. His hat was shot clean off his head multiple times. His belt was shot in half. His reins were shot through. Bullets came close enough to tear his clothing, but he was never once wounded. The final count of his career. Over 3,000 arrests, 14 outlaws taken down in self-defense, 0 innocent people harmed, ever. Police Chief Bud Ledbetter said of him, "The veteran Negro deputy never quailed in facing any man. That was the highest praise anyone could give." Outlaws posted death threats on trails throughout the territory with his name on them. Bass collected the cards as souvenirs. He feared no one. Bass Reeves had 11 children with his wife Nellie. Among them was a son named Benny, short for Benjamin. Benny would test everything. In 1902, a warrant crossed Bass's desk in Fort Smith. The charge was taking a life. The name on the warrant was Benny Reeves. Bass could have passed this case to another deputy. No one in the world would have blamed him for stepping aside, but that was not Bass Reeves. He requested the warrant himself, his own flesh and blood, his own son. He would bring Benny to justice personally. The law applied to all. The manhunt lasted 2 full weeks across multiple territories. Benny had fled deep into Texas, but Bass knew exactly how to track a man. He found his son, he arrested him, and he brought him back to Fort Smith to stand trial. Father and son, badge and warrant, duty above all. Benny was convicted and served time in prison. He was later pardoned. But what Bass did that day showed the world who he truly was inside. Bass Reeves arrested his own son because he believed with all his heart that the law applied to everyone equally, even his own blood family. So, was Bass Reeves the inspiration for the Lone Ranger? Let us examine the evidence that historians have uncovered side by side. The parallels: both were connected to Texas. Both fought outlaws in lawless territories. Both had close personal ties to Native American communities and people. Both used clever disguises to capture criminals who thought they were safe. Bass even rode a white horse at one point during his long career. Bass was known to give silver dollars to children he encountered. The Lone Ranger famously left silver bullets as his signature calling card. Criminals Bass arrested were sent to the Detroit House of Corrections. The Lone Ranger was created by a radio station located in Detroit. Historian Art Burton wrote in his book that Bass Reeves is the closest real person to ever resemble the fictional character of the Lone Ranger. There is no definitive proof connecting them directly, but one thing is absolutely certain: Bass Reeves was real. His legend was never fiction. So why is Bass Reeves not a household name today? Why do we all know Wyatt Earp, but not the lawman whose record far surpassed his? The reason. The first reason is obvious. Newspapers at the time regularly refused to credit black lawmen for their achievements, or gave credit to others. When Bass took down the notorious outlaw Jim Webb, the newspapers mentioned he was merely present at the scene, not that he was the one who acted. The second reason cuts deeper. Bass could not read or write. He left behind no memoirs, no journals, no letters. His own voice was never recorded. The third reason is the most painful of all. When Oklahoma became a state in 1907, new laws prevented black men from serving. At 69 years old, Bass was forced out of the federal marshal service. He became a city policeman in Muskogee. A demotion for a legend. He passed away on January 12, 1910, from kidney disease. He was 71 years old. The West had lost one of its greatest heroes, and for nearly a century after that, his story was almost completely forgotten, erased by prejudice and time, lost to American memory. But Bass Reeves is finally getting his due. Historians are correcting the record. His name is being restored to its rightful place in history. In 2006, historian Art Burton published Black Gun's Silver Star. It became the definitive biography of the greatest lawman who ever lived. A bronze statue now stands in Fort Smith, Arkansas, where Bass served. Another stands in Muskogee. A bridge in Oklahoma now bears his name. The television series Watchmen on HBO featured Bass Reeves in its powerful opening scene. Millions of viewers learned his name for the first time. In 2023, the streaming service released Lawman Bass Reeves, starring David Oyelowo, a full series dedicated to telling his true story. His great-great-great-grandson, Ryan Reeves, plays professional hockey in the NHL today. The Reeves family legacy continues into the present day. Bass Reeves reminds us of something important. American history is far richer and more diverse than the textbooks we grew up reading ever told us. The Lone Ranger was fiction, a character created for radio entertainment, but Bass Reeves was real, and his true story is far more incredible. 3,000 arrests, 32 years of service, never wounded, never killed an innocent soul. He arrested his own son to uphold justice. He was born a slave with no future. He became the greatest lawman the American West has ever known. His story deserves to be remembered forever. The next time someone mentions the Wild West, remember Bass Reeves, the real hero, the real legend, the man history tried so hard to forget. His badge meant something. His word meant something. His commitment to justice meant everything. That is what a true American hero looks like. We owe it to Bass Reeves to remember his name. We owe it to ourselves to learn the stories that were hidden from us for far too long. Remember, history is not just what we were taught in school. It is what we choose to uncover, what we choose to honor, what we refuse to let be forgotten. Bass Reeves lived by a simple code. The law applies to everyone equally. No exceptions, not even for family. That principle deserves our respect. From enslaved child to legendary lawman, from forgotten hero to American icon, the story of Bass Reeves is finally being told. As it should be. If you learned something new today, consider subscribing for more forgotten American history. There are countless stories still waiting to be told. Drop a comment below and let me know. Had you ever heard of Bass Reeves before watching this video? I would genuinely love to know your thoughts. Next time, we uncover another American hero that history forgot. Their story will surprise you, I promise. Until then, thank you for watching,